how have you found the experience of turning this series into an audiobook?
Fantastic. I just send it to you, and it's amazing. It comes back, and I always listen to what you've done, and I stick, because for the benefit of anyone listening or watching, Graham will create a shared folder that we can both access, and then I'll go in and I'll listen to the voices, and I'll listen to the first few chapters, and yeah, it just fills me with confidence, and I just know I don't have to go in then until you're done, really, until you send that. Yeah, I just know. As long as sometimes there's an accent that I want to be particular, but you always get it. So yeah.
She was alone, with nowhere to go except to make her way up the hill to higher ground. But even then, the nearest neighbour was a 5-minute walk along the winding lane. And if she was honest with herself, she didn't really want to go there. She leaned on the door, letting her head sag between her arms, and she let the tears run free. A single sob rose through her chest and burst like a bubble of air. Then she felt it. An icy hand on her shoulder in the darkness. And she started with a scream that was silenced as icy fingers reached behind and clamped firmly over her mouth. Jack Cartwright, how are things in Lincolnshire?
Fantastic. Thank you, Graham. Yep. How are you?
Very good.
Yep.
Very busy. Doing a lot of your books, actually. Been very busy. We've done we did 3 kind of back to back, didn't we? And I'm on a 4. We did 3 in the series that we're going to talk about, the Deadly Wolds, and I'm on book 15 of the Wild Fens series. So yeah, I'm just finishing up basically a 4-book stint just from you. Yeah, great.
Yeah, well, that's 5 books, because you'll be having that one in a couple of weeks. That's the
nice
4th one in the new series.
That's the 4th one in the Deadly Wolds Murder Mysteries. Yeah. Right. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, you're Lincolnshire-based, and, of course, all the books are set in Lincolnshire. So you've got... When you came at this series, you already had 2 murder mysteries set in Lincolnshire. Why did you think you needed a 3rd?
Oh, right. So all the series are different. They're all unique, but they all live in the same world. So we have the Wild Fens series with Freya and Ben. It's got a little touch of humour. Some books have a little bit more humour than others, but they're all based around the area where I live, which is North Kesteven in Lincolnshire, which is basically fenland. And the fens stretch right on down into Norfolk and Cambridge, I guess. The second series was the DCI Cook series, and they're a little bit more, I won't say literary, because I think that's probably stretching it, but they take a lot more. They're a lot more involved. Each book is based on a Dickens novel, and you know this, you've read them, or inspired by, not based on, inspired by a particular Dickens novel. So to do Dickens justice, they just need to be in depth, and so many layers and really intricate, and they take a lot.
And they are too. Yeah.
Yeah, but ever since I've lived in Lincolnshire, which is since 2019, I've wanted to do something in the Wolds. But having Freya and Ben in the Fens, and don't get me wrong, I'm here. The Wolds is probably 25 minutes towards the coast, east. To have Freya and Ben and the team work too many cases over there, it would be a bit yawny, because they'd always be in the car, right? It's not like they could just pop out to the Wolds, or it stretched, and they've ventured over to the coast a couple of times, but that's by the by. That's going to happen. I can't have that happen in every book. So I thought I need a new team, and I had some ideas for a team, or definitely for George Larson and Ivy Hart.
Yeah.
Because they appeared in a previous Wild Fens novel, right?
They did, yeah.
Which we'll talk about later, I guess. yeah, so I kind of wanted to pull. When I wrote them, I really wanted to use them, and I thought George Larson was a fantastic character. So there you go. I've got a place I wanted to write a series, and I've got a character I wanted to use. So yeah, there you go. And like last year, I just set to it.
And where does George come from?
He's Lincolnshire.
No, I mean the character of George. Is he based on a particular actor or somebody you knew or a relative or something?
I won't say based on. Just like Freya in my head, when I write her, I picture Gillian Anderson, and then that just really helps me kind of visualize her movements and really kind of explain and describe her. You know, like Gillian Anderson, she's a beautiful woman. She's a fantastic actor, and I've seen her do a couple of interviews on Top Gear, even actually, and other programs, and she always comes across very confidently. She can turn it on and turn it off. Right? She's just in control. I love it. So when it came to doing George Larson, I needed to have that visual element, and one of the characters I really like and admire is Bill Nighy.
I see that. Yeah.
There's not a direct. I do see him when I'm writing, and when he's moving, I picture Bill Nighy. Whereas Freya, I mean, I'm doing the 16th Wild Fence book at a minute, so Freya, Gillian Anderson is she's firmly fixed in my head, and that's not a bad thing. But it's going to take a few more books for Bill Nighy to kind of really fill that space. At the minute, I use him where I need to. I use that image where I need to. Just how would he stoop? How would he bend? How would he walk across the room? All these things make a real difference to somebody's character. Like me, I charge everywhere. I've always got things to do. But someone like George would be a little bit more considered. Perhaps he'd be a bit more polite the way he edges past people. And I'm like a bull in a china shop. But you need that visual, I think, to really write consistent characters.
Yeah, I like the way you've got the generational thing in there. You know, because he's older and he's from a slightly different patch, still within Lincolnshire. And you've got him having to deal with that coming back to a patch he knows really well. And you've got Ivy in there as well for him to work off, who is, like a generation younger. She's not like a kid. She's got issues as well. And I think that really, the way that plays through is it's really effective. And so you've got a murder mystery. They've got a job to do. They are the police. They have to solve a crime. But you also have to weave through the real lives of the people involved. How difficult is it to balance those two things?
Well, it is a balance. Sometimes you read it back and it can be a bit story heavy, which from a reader's perspective, they don't get to love the characters so much. Other times you can read it back and it can be a bit subplot heavy, if you like, a bit too much about the main characters, and that's not what reader buys the book. So there is definitely a balance there that you kind of really need to strike, and I think it becomes apparent. I think now it's second nature. I've written a lot of books now, and I know if it's too far one way or the other. I have a good idea.
Yeah, with George,
strike. Yeah,
there's a real sensitivity in the way you've written George, particularly when I'm not going to give too much away. No spoilers in this, by the way, but there is a dementia storyline in it, and you've really written it in a very sensitive way. I mean, I know that more so with your books than other authors I work with. At the end of the day, when my wife says to me, "Oh, how was your day today?" and I say, "Oh, and I do start talking about your books, and we did talk about the dementia element to the story. Is that based on something real? That's a real experience of yours, or people you know, or something?
My nan had dementia. I didn't get to experience. It was in her later years, and she was my dad's mum. and I'm not too close to that side of the family, so I didn't see too much of it, but I did see it. But listen, like the Wild Fens. So what's really important? Remember, I spoke about the readers need to kind of learn and love those characters. And with the Wild Fens series, one of the things I was always keen on is when Freya and Ben walk into that incident room. You haven't got Gillespie and Nilsson and Gold all talking about the case, like the investigation, and the cat's away. They're talking
about chocolate bars.
Chocolate bar. Yeah. Did you see X Film on the TV, or did you see the latest Bake Off?
Which is what people talk about at work. They don't always talk shop. Yeah,
of course, they're people. So what I wanted to do with this new series, it's a real opportunity, and I did it with the DCI Cook series as well. So DCI Cook's partner goes through, or her lifelong experience has been suffering from being overweight. It's nothing that she's done that's created that. She's just overweight, and I really wanted to address that problem and bring it. So it's put someone in the limelight who isn't a stick thin model and conforms to all the social, expectations. And it's the same thing with the Deadly Wolds. I wanted to take the dementia thing because there's millions of people out there suffering with it. I mean, not just the people actually suffering with dementia. It's the circle of people around them as well that suffer, right? And then without any spoilers, the Ivy's problem. I went through that as a child.
Okay.
To speak cryptically now.
Yes, yeah, because we don't want to give too much away, but it is, it's a family situation, yeah.
Yeah, and you've got to use things that people can relate to, and you've got to offer two sides of that. That's the tough part, is offering two sides of the coin, because I could write something from my perspective, but the book isn't my perspective. The book is the character's perspective, so I always have to strike a balance. And you probably notice that if ever I have a little political jibe at something that's going on in Parliament, I always provide an argument. And so, because that's what it is, it's not my opinion. I'm not going to give my political opinions or my emotional opinions away in the book. It's different people, and in real life, you have different people. You go and work in an office, and you're going to be sitting next to someone who, I don't know, might not agree with you politically, emotionally. They might not like the way you handle a particular challenge, and you're going to get that, right? And I think it's, I don't know, if you want to relate to people and you want people to empathise, then you need to put that in your books.
Yeah, and you make the characters very real. It's really lazy to say they're three-dimensional, but they are real. To me, they are real people. I can imagine that, some of them I would like to hang out with, some of them I wouldn't. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't think I could spend too much time with Cruz, although he's well-meaning. He's not a horrible person. You know what I mean?
Time with Cruz.
Where in this one though, where did the idea for Campbell and Byrne come from? Because they've given it an extra layer as well, haven't they?
Yeah. So that's a really interesting question. When I first decided to write a second series, I sat down and if you can see, I have an A3 pad that I use as my notepad, and I started sketching out a team. Right, so got George and Ivy, and I worked through and I added these people in, and it was really hard not to do a mirror image of the team in the Wild Fens. It was really hard. And it's interesting because I think that most teams, a lot of teams, there are personalities that appear in each one.
Yeah.
Right? There are a particular... It's like a family. Everyone's got that clown in the family, right? You're going to get that in the teams. So what I actually ended up scrubbing it. And if you noticed in the first book, it just starts off as George and Ivy.
Yeah.
I just thought, you know what? I'm going to grow the team organically. It's a new team. George and Ivy have moved stations, so it's a new team. They've got to struggle with that first one, and then if they do well, I might give them a couple more. And if they do well, I might give them a couple more. and I'm going to grow it. But what that enables me to do is actually write that first book, and then see what's missing. What's missing from that dynamism? Do you know what I mean? What is it what dynamic is missing? And that's where the different members of the team come from, because you need conflict. You have to have conflict. But you can have friendly conflicts, like, Burn, and you need people. You need these side characters. Say side characters; they're main characters now, but they started off as side characters, but they need to have an arc. So actually, Burn comes in, and he's almost Cruise-like in the first book.
He is, and you think, well, can you trust him? And has he got what it takes? But
but he's very quickly going through his arc, becoming actually astounding. And so all of these people need an arc. You can't just dump these characters in and only develop your main two characters. It's real. They all develop. Everybody changes and everybody adapts. So they have to have that. And if you put someone in and give them a flaw and have them work through that flaw, or don't, have them keep that flaw and have the other characters learn how to deal with that flaw, such as everyone who knows Freya Bloom, right? She's never going to change, but you have to learn how to handle her.
Yeah. And how do you keep track of them all then? Is there a system? Have you got a filing system? Or, how do you keep track of the characters and where they're at? In multiple series as well, Yeah,
I know. No, I don't, but I do have. I thankfully don't have to type it on a typewriter. There would be a lot of Tipex going on.
Right. So how many rewrites does it take then for a book to come out?
Oh, that does depend on the book. Some books, that first book, when the storm dies, that was rewritten several times. Just it's the first book in a new series. I want someone to turn that last page and feel really disappointed that it's finished. I know that's horrible to say, but
no, that's good.
So that and I just had to strengthen that language and read it line by line, and know that line could be better.
Right.
That sentence could be structured differently. I'm giving too much here. I'm going to take that key piece of information. I'm going to let the reader know that there is a piece of information, but I'm going to actually put that piece of information in the next chapter and just pull the reader through. So sometimes it takes a bit longer. Sometimes it's very fast.
Right.
I'm actually using a competitor of yours now.
Who's that?
Well, it's me. I've got an AI piece of AI software.
Sure.
It's cloned my voice.
Right.
And I'm having it read my story back to me.
Okay.
Because I can read it on the screen all day long.
Yeah.
It's not until you hear it.
Yeah.
That sentence is awful. If only I changed this, or restructured that, rephrased that. So that's what I'm going through now in book 4.
Yeah.
Is that process, and it might only be 2 or 3 edits. It might be a dozen edits in a chapter, but it's just a layer of polish that goes kind of on the writing side before it goes for a full-on edit.
Right. So, AI is that. I mean, I use an AI to proof what I've recorded. And I started out using it very sparingly. In fact, I wasn't using it on your books, but I use it on everything now. I run it through just to make sure everything is exactly the way it was written. And I know you've always been good giving me a little leeway, particularly with the dialogue, but I find usually what's on the page works because they're so well written. And and that's obviously because of your dedication and the way that the time you've spent agonizing over sentence structure and words and the way to get it across.
Sometimes I'm like, I'll let that go. But other times that's clunky.
Yeah.
It just was. And it's not how that person would say, which again goes back to being able to visualize that person.
Yeah.
Freya doesn't speak. She doesn't speak as common as I do. She speaks very well.
She does. Yeah.
And again, that goes back to, I think I've told you before, I have Downton Abbey on in the background whenever I'm writing Wild Things.
Nice.
And that's because the difference is in one program. And don't get me wrong, I don't watch it anymore. It's just on in the background. In one program, you've got the very well-to-do Crawley family, and then you've got serfs. You've got all the servants, and they're very common. So in one chapter, you can hear the difference in sentence structure, and the writers of Downton Abbey have got it spot on. The difference in sentence structure and grammar of somebody like Freya, and then somebody like Ben or Cruz, or I want to say Gillespie because he's on another level.
Yeah, because he's Glaswegian, for anyone who doesn't know, yeah.
But somebody who, working class background, and there's nothing wrong with me. I come from a working class background. There's nothing wrong with that. But we speak very differently to somebody who was educated to speak at a particular level, right? It just phrase sentences, and you have to have that difference. And Downton Abbey actually really helps me with that.
Look at that. There's a great writer's tip there from Jack Cartwright. If there's any authors watching this. Yeah. There's actually a nice bit in book 2 where the two main characters from Wild Fens, where Ben and Freya actually appear in a scene with George and Ivy. Because they're at a location, they're at the pathologist. Because in the books, there is a certain pathologist who appears in, is it all 3 series? Certainly 2 out of 3. Yeah. Is Pip in all 3? She's in all 3. Yeah. And she's a character in her own right, and going there is an adventure. And there was this lovely moment where one was, they were crossing over. One had come to see one body and another body. Was that hard to get that to work? To get characters from one book into the other one, apart from the mechanics of putting them in the same place at the same time, was it hard to? Because you still get Freya's character come across, particularly in the way Pip refers to her and the rest of it. It reinforces it. Yeah, was that difficult to write?
No, I don't think it's difficult. But what I've tried to create, there's some authors might create a what do they call it? A spin-off series, and I didn't want to do a spin-off series. Right. What I've created with 3 series is this world, right? It's Lincolnshire. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I think it's the second biggest county in England or in the UK.
Right.
And I think it's one of the least populated.
Right.
So we're not like London, where every hospital, I don't know the facts, but like most hospitals might have a forensic pathologist.
Yes.
A forensic pathologist is different to a standard pathologist, right?
Yeah.
In London, I mean, it's on the news every day now. Somebody's getting stabbed or hurt, or forensic pathology is going to be big in London. In Lincolnshire, we're not going to have one in Lincoln, in Boston, in Louth. We're not going to have one. So, forensic pathology, I would say 1 or 2. So, in my little world, there's one, and it's Dr. Pippa Bell.
Yeah, and she's brilliant. I love her. I love her because she's just so odd, and everybody who's in her company is already uncomfortable because there's usually a dead body on a table in front of them. Yeah, but Pip manages to make them feel even more uncomfortable than being in that situation just through her sheer personality.
Yeah, no, it's really weird. I watched, and so the character is in my head. Again, it's another inspiration. It's inspired by Ruth Jones, Nessa from Gavin and Stacey.
Yeah.
So that's in a slightly different image, but personality-wise.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going with that. Sorry.
You're talking about Pippa Bell and how awkward she makes people feel.
Okay, so I saw a series where the pathologist was actually making the detectives not feel uncomfortable, just feel stupid. I mean, like, these are massively intelligent people, but I don't know what kind of education they have to go through, but it must be incredible. Not only do you know the medical side of things, but also there's a legal aspect to it as well. I mean, like, one or the other, guys. I mean, like, that's taking on a lot, right? And they just made the detectives feel stupid. And I started down that route. It wasn't right. Here's me trying to sell these amazing detectives, and then make them look stupid. It didn't. It's not something that I could replicate in every book. Right. So I just made them feel stupid, not for what they know or their professionalism, just for their personalities. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Pippa's got the ability to make you second guess yourself. It doesn't matter who you are. But on a personal level, not on a professional level, she never doubts and questions anybody's competence. It's more about them as a person. She can twist something you say to make you sound sexist or racist or, or whatever.
Because professionally, she's quite helpful. She'll educate them.
Brilliant.
For instance, she'll talk about how once the heart stops, there's the bruising, and she will educate them. She wants to help them understand her world. But
everyone who stands in front of with the dead body is on guard. That's probably the short way of saying right? That's kind of cool because it's not making the detectives look stupid. These people tell the reader they're brilliant and they've got brilliant minds, and it takes one woman to make them look stupid. No, they're just on guard and, like you said, uncomfortable, and they fall into her traps. Right?
And how do you pick the locations for the scenes in the books? Because a lot of them are real places, aren't they?
Yeah. A lot of the time on a dog walk, so we lost our dog just before Christmas.
Oh.
So we used to go for dog walks. We found a lot of the books in a lot of the locations in the books were found. We were just strolling around, taking the dog somewhere different. Other times it's a bit of research. I actually put a video on Facebook before Christmas, and I just said to readers, if you're in the Lincolnshire area, in this area in particular, and you know of somewhere that would make a good location, then let me know. And actually, off the back of it, one guy got in touch and told me about a place in Billinghay, which is about 10 minutes up the road from where I am. This old deserted farmhouse, it's got like a tree growing. There's no roof. It's got a tree growing through the living room. And it's fabulous. It's brilliant. I went there and I took my drone and we had a little fly around, and fantastic place. And another place is, it's no secret, I can tell you, Ancaster Leisure, which is, I think it used to be a farm. It's about 20 minutes from where I am in a place called Ancaster, which is a really old Roman kind of site. And it's a karting centre, paintball, airsoft, like outdoor. It's like you'd go there on a stag do for a day and have a brilliant time with all, or kids would go there for parties. It's a really, really brilliant place. But the paintball side of things, they've got, I think it's 40 acres of forest or something. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's something like that. And I went on a little tour and I was like, oh, this is perfect,
Yeah.
And what I don't like to do, if it's a real place that's somebody's house or somebody's business, I don't like to put the murder there.
Right, of course.
That's not cool. I always go with the fact that Lincolnshire is such an amazing place. It should be celebrated. And what I don't want to do is, I don't know, cause any harm to someone's business or, that's not cool.
Yeah.
So I usually make a place up. But with the Ancaster Leisure place, and a deserted farmhouse is fine. I mean, there's no one's going to live there for a while.
Yeah.
Ancaster Leisure would probably be one of the exceptions on that, because you go there, with my head on. I was like, oh my God, there's lots I could do here. So that's quite a cool one. That's ticking away in my mind.
So the wedding venue where there's a murder, that's made up. That's not a real place.
No, it's 100%. It's a real place.
Right. But there's a murder there. There's a murder takes place there.
There is a murder there, but I went and got express permission.
Did you?
Driving down this lane in the Wolds.
Right.
And it's beautiful, the Wolds. When it's hilly, but it's not like Lake District. It's not mountainous. It's just rolling hills, which when you live in the fens like I do, like I go across to the field over the road and you can see for miles.
It's just flat.
But when you go to the Wolds, you feel like you need hiking sticks and, like a Sherpa. But it's beautiful and it's stunning. And it's all these little intricate, it's like, it reminds me of, do you remember opening credits to Postman Pat, like when we were kids?
Yeah, yeah.
and he's going down his little roads and there's fields and hills, and that's what it reminds me of. And I went around the corner, I was just coming up to this bridge, and on the left I saw an old water wheel on a mill.
Yeah.
And it always stuck with me. And then just before I started writing the book, I went and knocked on the door and introduced myself. And this is interesting. So, yeah, I went and introduced myself and explained what I wanted to do. And they were a lovely couple, really nice. And they said I could set the book there. I mean, the owners and the actual staff that work there, I try not to implicate. I don't want to get too much. Yeah. I don't want to shine a bad light on the place. And actually, the way that the staff and the owners manage the murder, and the wedding guests is exemplary. So I actually shine a positive light on it. Right.
Yeah, yeah. And the venue itself has no connection whatsoever to the murder, other than it's the location where the body's found. There's nothing to do with. Yeah, I see. Yeah, well, the business is not even.
The venue itself. So there's a village not far away from that venue called Bag Enderby. Yeah. And I chose that because it reminded me of Lord of the Rings, which is a Tolkien, obviously.
Yeah.
When I was talking to the guy that owns Stockwith Mill with where the wedding was set, he said, "Well, that's funny because Tennyson, remember Tennyson?
Yeah.
He grew up in Bag Enderby, and I want to use the word dated. Wooed is probably the better word. The daughter of the guy that owned the mill. So there's already a writing connection to the mill.
Yes.
And hopefully I've just added to that. Yeah. Hopefully I'll be as famous as Tennyson.
Yeah. Be a good place to go do a book signing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's in the book, and, they've got the facilities to put something like that on, with the catering.
Yeah. But it's a fabulous place, and the water wheel doesn't turn anymore. I think they said they was looking into getting it restored. Obviously, that's a long project, like national heritage and all that. But yeah, stunning place. All the places in the Wolds. I just drove around the Wolds for a day, just thinking, oh, that's nice. And the church in the second book, I saw that, and it wasn't the church itself. The church is beautiful, but it was the driveway down to the church that really got me.
Right.
And a beautiful old graveyard. So there's loads of these little gems in the Wolds, and it's stunning. It's really lovely.
Well, you take the photos for the cover art. Do you find yourself taking the camera with you everywhere in case you spot something that would make a good cover, or do you go, I must remember that and come back?
When I go everywhere, you mean? I drive to the next village and back to drop my daughter at preschool.
Right.
Today I went into Lincoln, which was a big day out for me. I don't go there. I don't go anywhere.
Well, you're a writer. You're not supposed to go out that often.
I know. I do take my camera. If I know I'm going to the Wolds, or if I'm going to look at locations, then I'll take my camera and my drone as well.
Right.
And that's... Yeah.
And the way you turn them into the covers, because I think it was probably only about a year ago when you told me that you take the pictures, because I didn't realise, because they just look so high end. I'm like, well, he's the writer, how can he be, that good at something else, I
was a photographer in a previous life.
You were? Cool. Well, there you go. There's the trick to it.
So I didn't take that one. That's the latest one.
Right.
I did take that one. That's the actual church.
Yes, that is the actual church. Wow.
And I didn't take that one. But I did take a lot of the Wild Fens covers.
And how do you get them from a photograph to get them to look like that? Is there a particular software you favour?
Photoshop.
Really?
Yeah. But I'll put a concept together. So I'll kind of lay it out. And it's because... So they're my covers, right? So if I'm taking a picture of a house or a church, I know that I want that church here. Right. Sometimes you can go on to like a stock image site like Shutterstock or Envato, and you can find a brilliant church or a brilliant building, but it's just in one part of the frame. And to move it across takes loads of kind of jiggery pokery. So I can take the image that I want,
Yeah.
like almost not first time, but like one visit, and I'll come away with the image that I want. That church or that building will be where I want. I know where I want the text to go, the title to go, and my name, etc. So I can kind of do all that, and then I'll put that concept together. And I've got a graphic designer who does, or she takes over from me basically. She'll then turn that into the paperbacks. So I do the ebook cover basically, like a really basic design of the ebook cover. She'll make that look good. She'll turn it into a paperback, hardback, large print, audio book, all the graphics for the Amazon sales page. She'll do the website. She basically takes what I do and runs with it.
Right. Yeah. And so it is an initiative for her to turn it into, because with audiobooks they have to be square rather than rectangular. She still manages to work it out and still have the same vibe as the yeah.
I used to do all that, but it's not something you know what, I put something on Facebook yesterday. So in January and February this year, I'm releasing 4 books. And it doesn't sound like a lot. People are probably going to listen to this or watch this and 4 books.
So from my point of view, one of your books is around about 10 to 12 hours worth of reading out loud. So these are not short books yet.
No, they're not short books. But it's the multitude of kind of tasks that go into that. So you're talking about getting the Amazon sales page ready, getting the paperbacks done. But for the paperbacks to be done, I have to write that bit, which is harder sometimes than writing the entire book. And then to get the website ready, I need that bit as well, right? And then, but to get the actual paperbacks done, the books need to be edited. So I've got a final page count because of the spine thickness, which is different on large print, and it's different on the hardbacks because it's all different sizing and different fonts. There are dozens and dozens. I actually use Asana, which is a software, project management software, and I've got a whole team now. I have an assistant and graphic designer and editors and proofreaders and narrator, marketing going on, and I need graphics for ads, and I need copy for ads, and that all has to be set up. So I'm doing 4 of them in 2 months, and yesterday, after releasing the 3rd book, went live yesterday. I was like, I'm not doing anything today. I'm just not. Yeah. So we went into town. We had to meet somebody, and I come home and sat on the sofa, and that was where I stayed. Had a little. The tasks, and it doesn't matter how big or small the task is. They've all got to be done. Got to be. And they've got to be done in a particular order as well. Otherwise, it doesn't work. The whole machine comes to a grinding halt. Yeah.
You mentioned the audio books. How have you found the experience of turning this series into an audio book?
Fantastic. I just send it to you, and it's amazing. It comes back, and I always listen to what you've done, and I stick, because for the benefit of anyone listening or watching, Graham will create a shared folder that we can both access, and then I'll go in and I'll listen to the voices, and I'll listen to the first few chapters, and it just fills me with confidence, and I just know I don't have to go in then until you're done, really, until you send that. Yeah, I just know. As long as sometimes there's an accent that I want to be particular, but you always get it. So yeah.
No, they are wonderful books to read. They are a joy to read because they're so well written, and obviously it's because of the work you've put in and the time you've put in, your dedication to it, and knowing the area as well, making them real.
Yeah, I always go out. I've got my van, and I go out and I sit. And if it's the right time of year where the book's being set, I'll sit and I'll kind of look at what wildflowers are about, and what smells there. It's interesting. Where I am now, the red arrows practice right there every day.
Brilliant.
And I'm loath to put them in, because if I put them in one book, they've got to be in every book. But it's great, and I've got 2 big Velux windows there, so every now and again I just see them fly by or do it upside down. I was going to say, when you read it, do you ever get caught up in emotion? Do you ever then have to reread something to clear your throat?
Yeah, the dementia piece. I think it was the final dementia piece that I read. I had to have 3 goes at that one. Yeah, because it was not that I've been particularly personally touched with dementia in my life. I mean, my father had it towards the end of his life, but I didn't really have much to do with him at that stage. But just, I don't know, because I get really close to the characters, and particularly the main characters, and George. I could imagine how he felt going through that, and yeah, I do now and again go through it, particularly in the books that you write. Yeah, and of course, the funny bits as well. I will laugh and have to re-record something that Gillespie has said or done. There was a conversation in one of the Wild Fens books. I think I mentioned it to you once before, where Cruz and Gillespie are in a car talking about, what are they talking about? They're in the pub car park, and I think it was a discussion on sexism that went, and it was just so well done. And every now and again, I just have to stop because it was just so funny. Yeah. So, yeah. And that's the great thing about the books too, is, there is light and shade in them. It isn't all, they're murder mysteries. So there's going to be some heavy moments, but there's lighter moments, and there's moments that are darker, but have got nothing to do with the crime. They're to do with something happening in someone's life, and, Freya in the Wild Fens, when I think it was 2 books ago, I thought you'd killed her. And I felt like a real loss, and you hadn't. Mm-hmm. Although that's, obviously that's not a spoiler because there are other books after that. So, but I didn't know whether there were any other books after it when I read that book. Yeah.
When I'm writing, and I'm not really a crier, but I will have tears kind of rolling down my cheeks. And if I can do that to myself, then I can do that to the reader as well. And I know what's going to happen. I've got an idea of what's going to happen, but it's still, my eyes will well up, and that's always a positive sign for me. And it's one of the, I think it was the book I've just released, Until Death Do Us Part. When I was writing that, my wife took the kids away. It was like on a Thursday, and she was coming back on a Sunday night. So I was like, great, 4 days. I mean, like I work anyway, but if they're away, then I can almost double my output because distractions. Yeah. That happened Monday morning. Open up my laptop. I'd lost everything I'd written from Thursday. It's one of those things that happens. Yeah, and I used to be head of IT for a big company, so it happens. It can happen to anyone. And I could remember most of it, but I was really gutted about it. There was one chapter in it that was, it just made me crack up, and it was actually the one where Ruby explains about being gluten-free.
Okay.
And I managed to recreate it because there's quite a few jokes, and not jokes, but there's quite a few reactions.
Yeah.
That are the humour's in the reaction of the,
Yeah.
Picture it panning out. That's where the comedy is, and I managed to get that back. And I wasn't really worried about the rest of it because I knew the story, but it was that chapter that I was gutted about. And obviously, I had to write it all again.
Yeah, because with the comedy, there are certain things that have to be in the right place at the right time and the right length to make it land. Yeah.
And if somebody's not looking at a particular reaction, that needs to be clear, but it doesn't need. You don't want to make it too obvious because it ruins it. It just needs to be really subtle, so the can imagine it panning out. A little subtle glance at your mate, and it's lots of little bits like that. So it's not always humour.
Yeah.
It's a situation, right? You can put yourself in it and just find it funny.
Yeah. No, they are great. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put link. Normally, I put a link to the book we're talking about, but I'll put a link to all of the Jack Cartwright audiobooks in the link. You click on that and it'll take you to all of them and take your pick. This is the Deadly Wolds Murder Mysteries, and the other two are the Wild Fens. What's the second one called? It slipped my mind briefly.
It's a DCI
that's
series.
right, DCI Cook series, of course, yeah. So check them all out, and continued success, Jack. I hope we can continue doing this for a long, long time, because I really enjoy it. It is so much fun. It really is good to be working on this.
There's a lot of good feedback that comes back from the readers as well. So it's not like we're just sitting here having a great time. There are other people out there that really enjoy it, and that kind of makes it worthwhile, right?
Jack Cartwright, thank you so much.
Thank you, Graham.